नंद महाराज की जय।
हरिबो। नाम संकीर्तन की जय। Any questions this morning? He's here. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
In the 11th canto, is speaking about qualification for jnana, karma, and bhakti. So, in regard to bhakti, he's saying that Yadricha Yama Katkasu, Jata Shaka Vayakuman, and Nirvina Natisha Kyo. One who, by good fortune, awakened faith in my katha, and is not too attached and too disgusted with material life, is qualified for bhakti. So for me, it's not completely clear what he means by saying that to detach or to discuss this qualification for bhakti, detachment.
Yeah, Rupa Goswami mentions this qualification in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. One should not be too much attached or too detached to be a candidate for bhakti. Well, I think that you have to look at the two margs or paths that correspond with attachment and detachment. So, karma marg corresponds with attachment and the pursuit of material betterment, progress, and so forth. And the Gyan marg is related to detachment. So too much on one side or the other side will qualify one for karma or Gyan. Bhakti comes in the middle, in a sense, in that in Bhakti there is acceptance of things and there is rejection of things, both. Right? So if we're too much detached, we will not be able to identify with the idea of accepting things that are favorable for bhakti, which could be any number of things, and think that detachment is entirely what spiritual life is about. And if we are too much what was the reverse of that? We're too much detached, did I say? Too much attached. Too much attached, right, which would tip the scale towards karma, material improvement, acquisition, and so forth, then we won't be able to let go of things that are unfavorable for bhakti. So it's another way of saying accept what's favorable. Anukulyasya sankalpa partikulyasya varjanam, reject what's unfavorable. So both are elements, if you will, or aspects of the bhakti that comes in the middle. So as I say, often karma cancels out gyan and gyan cancels out karma, right? You agree? How is that? How does karma cancel out gyan? You say, you know, what's the answer? How does karma cancel gyan? How does gyan cancel karma? What is karma?
Attachment.
Work, attachment, acquisition, the pursuit of things. Is it really the pursuit of things? It's the pursuit of happiness in relation to things that don't endure. That's stupid. You see, that's not gyan, that's ignorance, right? How will you be happy in relation to things that don't endure, collecting them, right? So in that sense, karma cancels out gyan. And gyan, on the other hand, cancels out karma, right? Because if you know that things are here today and gone tomorrow, there's impermanent, and I want permanence, enduring life, and enduring happiness, then I'm not going to move in relation to those things. But in bhakti, then we do move in relation to things of the world for the service of Krishna, and we do move away from things in the world. So this is the idea. Another question?
Although you've been focusing on the Madhya Lila, in Antya Lila, Prabhu he's not really acting, right? In his bar. So how does that correspond to Radharani's functioning in
Well, we would say that his Antya Lila is the, as I say, he's moving away from his public life into a private life, and of course it develops. Then so there are 6 years or so, 6 or plus years of the Antya Lila, and there's the private. So there's some movement, but a lot of his movement is disappearing in the middle of the night and ending up in the ocean, right? And his devotees going to find him because he was in ecstasy and oblivious to external conditions, and melted, went underneath the door, and took the ocean to be the Jamuna, and so on and so forth. So this is kind of madness, if you will, of the Antya Lila. And you're agitated. How does that correspond with Radharani's life, which is picking flowers and worshiping and so on and so forth, right? Yeah. Well, excuse me, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance represents Krishna's Acharya Lila. So Acharya means the teacher, and Achar means behavior, so who teaches by behavior, and of course by precept, writing and so forth. He did not pen, a number of books, but he wrote his Shikshastakam, and of course he taught verbally the Rup Sanatan and so forth and so on. So this is Krishna in his Acharya Lila. So that means he's appears to be, he's conducting himself like a sadhaka, like a sadhu, right? So sadhu has an outward life and an inner life. Excuse me, and the inner life can take over, right? This gives rise to an internal spiritual body. That's just not going to pop out in front of everybody and dance around. That's internal meditative body. It's on the inner landscape. So he's on the inner landscape in Radha Bhav, or whatever one's Bhav may be. They're active internally. Externally, they may be inactive. You see that if one is sitting in meditation, you may think they're inactive. If the meditation is derived from bhakti, they could be herding cows while sitting there, for example, right? Internally. So that answer your question? Yes. Okay. What else? Yes.
I was hearing a class of yours just before coming here where you were saying that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had said that Bhakti Vinod Thakur was a Gadadhar Pandit. And I obviously himself, he speaks about himself being Kamala Manjari. And I was wondering like how we are to understand Bhakti Vinod, the way Bhaktisiddhanta is speaking about him.
This is a statement that Saraswati Thakur made once, and Pujapad Sridhar repeated it, but I think it's fairly obvious that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is not Gadadhar Pandit per se. He worshipped Gadadhar, Gaur and Gadadhar, and he envisioned himself to be, experienced himself internally to be maidservant of Radha, Kamala Manjari. But in his pranam mantra, I'm not sure who composed the pranam mantra, but we say, Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namne Gaur Shakti Swarupaya Rupanoga Varayate Gaur Shakti Swarupaya. So he's the Swarup, of the form and nature of Gaur Shakti. Gaur Shakti, we can say, means Gadadhar. So it's just a way of emphasizing this this point that the Shakti of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is which is the Shakti of Krishna, is most fully personified in Gadadhar, and that Shakti was present and came through in no uncertain terms to the world in the form of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai, Gadadhar Pandit ki jai. What else?
Too much, mentioned days how offenses can lead to like Papa Sampradayas, like in the case of Mahavira and the state expansion until this day. And he also said how Krishna Shakti is necessary to spread Krishna consciousness. So how would these go together? Like, is whatever is in that line doesn't have some bhakti or not?
Well, I think that the answer is that when we refer to something, a particular expression of apparent Gaudiya Vaishnavism, but to come to classify it as apasiddhanta or apasampradaya, then it's not thought to be spreading of Krishna consciousness, right? At least not orthodox Gaudiya Vaishnavism, what has come to be orthodox Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, for example, at this time identified 13 different sects that claimed adherence to and to be representatives of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching, but they weren't, in his estimation, their teachings didn't conform in significant ways. They did not conform with the teachings of the Goswamis and Krishnadas Kaviraj, who were the founding acharyas, the Shastra gurus of the Sampradaya. So there's no contradiction. It takes Shakti to spread Krishna consciousness, spiritual Shakti, but it doesn't take spiritual Shakti to be a Rajneesh or something like that, or any other bogus guru that's out there that has millions of followers, many more than I'll ever have, many more than even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had in this time, perhaps. So counterfeit things are popular in a counterfeit world. So truth is not going to be popular in a world of falsity. So don't be deceived by numbers. Oh, he has so many disciples. He must be very bona fide, something like that. That answer your question?
Followers get benefit from like joining the mission at all?
Depends on the mission. You have to judge everything individually. There may be some benefit, but you take the perspective of Rupa Kaviraj, which was determined to be a misinterpretation of a very central verse of Rupa Goswami's. Prabhupada gave 3 verses in Bhakti-rasa Samrita Sindhu that explain how to practice Raganuga Bhakti. Comes down to 3 verses. It's pretty simple, actually. Really, it's all about taste, but you could at least identify with the teaching of that and have that as your ideal without a taste. In that sense, be thought to be on the path of Raga Bhakti. We call that without a taste Raga Bhakti, which is kind of a contradiction because Raga Bhakti means the practice that's driven by taste. Example I've given before, that what's the difference between a babysitter and a mother with regard to the child? The babysitter takes care of the child very nicely, has affection for the child probably, but she's doing it for a particular reason, and she's doing it as a duty. the mother, it's not a job, right? She's just spontaneously, naturally doing. So the latter, the mother, is the example of that motherhood that's driven by taste, by feeling, rather than by duty, obligation, and so forth, which would be Vaidhi Bhakti. But still, one can be on the path of rag without a taste by identifying with the ideal and understanding it theoretically and so forth. That said, an important verse of the three that Rupa Goswami has given in his explanation of how to practice Raganuga Bhakti. Well, Rupa Kaviraj really misunderstood it in a substantial way, because Rupa says, what is it? Seva sadhaka rupena siddha rupena chatrahi, etc. That in Raganuga Bhakti we have two bodies. We have the sadhaka deha, which is a practitioner's body. That's a work in progress. The body is made out of senses, the sixth of which, if you will, or the 11th of which is the mind. So body and mind. The sadhaka deha is a body-mind complex that in which the mind and the senses are in touch with sense objects like tastes and smells and sights and thoughts, only for the pleasure of Krishna's senses rather than my own senses. When I interact with sense objects, with the world, the external world, through my senses and my mind, for their pleasure, an identity arises out of that. That's our material identity. You have likes, dislikes. Who is she? Oh, she who likes this, who doesn't like that, does this, doesn't do that, feels like this, doesn't feel like that, and so forth. So this is how our identity arises. So reasonably, if instead we were to take our mind and senses and employ them in relation to sense objects for the pleasure of Krishna's senses, another identity would arise. The identity of Krishnadasi arises, right? And it becomes particular and specific and so forth as we progress in that. So, therefore, the sadhaka deha, which is one of the two bodies, if you will, in Ragamarg, is a work in progress. Therefore, sometimes sadhakas, practitioners, sometimes their senses and their mind are interacting with things and thoughts about things, often in consideration of sense pleasure, rather than for the pleasure of Krishna's senses. And sometimes it's the opposite. They're using their senses and mind for the pleasure of Krishna's senses. So the sadhaka deha is like the prakat lila of Krishna. It's spiritual, but there are some material elements in there. There's an agasura, kamsa, and so forth. Elements that are not present in the same sense or the same extent in the aprakat lila, right? But the prakat lila is an opportunity to portal by which we can enter into the aprakat lila. So the sadhaka deha is like that. It's like a portal, but it's a work in progress. And as you progress in spiritualizing your practitioner's body, then the internal body arises out of that. And as it arises out of that, then the opportunity to render service internally in that meditative body you're presented with. So what Rupa Kaviraj misunderstood was that Rupa Goswami said we should serve in a sadhaka deha and a siddha deha. So he took the sadhaka deha and said we should serve in the sadhaka deha by using it as a siddha deha. And so he wrapped his sadhaka deha in a sari and said, I'm a gopi, right? And the teaching says we should serve Krishna in a sadhaka deha and a siddha deha. So I'll serve in my sadhaka deha, and then when I go on the altar, I'll put on a sari and as a gopi. Sounds a little crude, but he has a very sophisticated argument. If you've written books about it and so forth, but it was determined to be a misunderstanding of Rupa Goswami's verse. Mukunda Goswami, who was one of the famous commentators on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, also held that opinion. In fact, the lineage in which Rupa Kaviraj was a disciple of Mukunda Goswami. And it's said that his commentary on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu was then edited later on by an Orthodox Gaudiya Vaishnava, taking out certain elements in his commentary that were determined to be Apasiddhanta. It's an interesting point. But anyway, the actual understanding of the verse is that we should serve in our sadhaka deha and the siddha deha that arises out of the sadhaka deha when it arises, as it arises, then our eligibility to participate more fully on the path of Raganuga Bhakti is developing. So you don't pretend that you've got a siddha deha, or to speak of pretending that your sadhaka deha is a siddha deha. And instead, how we will serve in the sadhaka deha, and if we're going to serve in the sadhaka deha, then what will be the example? Well, the example is, how do gopis from the apricot lila serve in Gaur Lila? So we see Rupa Goswami as a gopi. In Gaur Lila, he comes in the sadhaka deha, and how does he serve? Does he wear a sari? No. He chants, pays obeisance to Vaishnavas, worships the deity, so on and so forth. So we should serve in a sadhaka deha in the Rag Marg by following gopis and gopas in their sadhaka dehas in Gaur Lila, through which the Rag Marg is made available. That's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission is doing an opening to that inner life of Krishna, right? So then, and as we do that, following the example of the gopis in their sadhaka dehas, and gopas, like the Dwadasa Gopals and so forth, the 6 Goswamis, then in due course, as the siddha deha starts to arise naturally, without any artificial effort, then how to serve in that, you don't really need a lesson. You don't really need a lesson. You don't need some forced lessons to make it happen either. As it happens, it's like, I've told the story before, mother and daughter together. Daughter was pregnant for the first time. So she was getting close to going into labor, and she wanted to take a little rest. So she asked her mother, like, if I go into labor, please wake me up. He said, nobody's gonna have to wake you up. When you're going to labor, you're gonna know you're in labor. So let me know if I've attained bhava. You will know if you've attained bhava. There'll be no question about that. Right? So there's not really a lot of teaching Bhava Bhakti. As I said earlier, the chapter on Bhava Bhakti and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is perhaps the shortest chapter. Maybe the chapter on Prema is a little shorter. So there's not that much that can be said about it. We can talk about Bhav, different ingredients and so on and so forth, and that may be useful for preaching, explaining to some extent, but basic practices are sufficient to give rise to your swabhav. It's all in the mantra, right? This chanting the mantra, your swabhav will arise. So anyway, the point is, relative to your question, it's a pretty major deviation on the part of Rupa Kaviraj. But you can go to India and you can find men putting on saris, offer artik and so forth, following that idea. Is there any benefit? Perhaps, but what's the value of trying to determine if there's any benefit? preach in such a way and set an example, but you know there'll be a full benefit, and ignore that. But there's all kinds of popular quasi spiritual groups, and that is in Gaudiya Vaishnavism is not excluded from that. Let's call them followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I remember when I was young, and Prabhupada used to talk about conquering the whole world for Krishna. I thought, what would it be like if the whole United States became, our president was a devotee or something like that? And I realized, God, it'd be a mess, There's so many. It's because it was one thing to talk to somebody that didn't know anything about Krishna consciousness, but another thing to talk to a Hindu from India that thought they knew everything about Krishna consciousness. Oh God, to reteach them. No, Shiva and Ganesh and Krishna are not the same. No, it's more complicated. So I thought, well, my life as a preacher won't be over. That happens. That's part of the territory. Yes.
I have a following question, but I will ask. So więc wrócić w sprawie jest zaawansowanym etapem sadhana bhakti. Wydaje się, że na Rajanuga sadhana bhakti występuje w początku. Więc czym się różni ten smak, który występuje na początku przed anarchangeliki, tym etapem zaawansowanym? Jaka jest przyczyna, że właśnie pojawia się ten smak nawet przed? So the ruchi, stage of ruchi, is advanced stage of sadhana bhakti, just before asakti. But it seems that on path of Raganuga sadhana bhakti, it appears is present right on the beginning. So what is the difference between this ruchi, this state which is present on Raganuga sadhana bhakti on the beginning, this advanced stage of ruchi, and what is the cause of this beginning ruchi, which is present even before anartha-nivritti?
Well, you're using the word ruchi as synonymous with the word that Rupa uses, which is lobha, and Jiva Goswami does that as well in Bhakti Sandarbha. Lobha means greed, ruchi means a taste, and so forth. So this is the defining characteristic of Raganuga Bhakti. As I said, it's bhakti engaged in out of a taste rather than out of the understanding that it's the right thing to do, therefore I should do it. And obviously, if your practice is driven by a taste, it will be easier and you will go faster. But you can't manufacture a taste, right? Therefore, the full idea of taste or lobha, there may be, like, if you study carefully, you see a spectrum here, a spectrum. And if the beginning idea of taste does not correspond with actual taste in sadhana bhakti, which would correspond much more with full measure of taste with that particular orientation, because there can be ruchi and vaidhi bhakti also, which is a taste for love of God with awe and reverence. And there's not a whole lot of difference in it both are driven by taste, but there's a difference in the goal. Reverential love is different than intimate love. But still, there's even Rupa. Jiva Goswami, for example, gives a spectrum of Raganuga Bhakti that is like fully operative or expressed in Braj, but he extends it all the way to Prahlad in Vaikuntha. Because Prahlad is described in the Bhagavatam as being like the pole star fixed on Govinda. His deity was Govinda. It was immovable and spontaneously attracted. So, of course, he's an example of Vaidhi Bhakti. So, but if we focus on Raganuga Bhakti in a more specific Gaudiya context, then you come to the Braj idea. So what we find is that it's not that because I woke up this morning and somebody told me that Rag Bhakti is very beautiful. It's about loving Krishna and God and intimacy rather than awe and reverence. And you thought, I really like that idea. I like that idea. That's how most devotees like that idea, right? And they join. Does that mean that they have ruchi? That they have lobha? Well, no, in one sense, but yeah, I think if you want to give a spectrum to that, right? Mm-hmm. And then if they take the trouble to learn the teachings and so forth, then they can be termed as Jiva Goswami does, rag bhaktas without ruchi. Mm-hmm. So if there's ajata means without, unborn, so in which ruchi has not manifest. How can you be a rag bhakta without lobha, basically, without ruchi? He's saying that if you're attracted to this by a teacher of such and those ideas, but the taste is not there, this is now your orientation. So with Prabhupada, for example, all of his disciples wanted to serve Radha and Krishna. If you told them, if you told the disciples of, well, I remember I was young and I joined Prabhupada's mission, and one older devotee told me, he said, not all the devotees go to Goloka Vrindavan. I wept when I heard that. What? He said they would go to Vaikuntha. I could not even I went before the deities and I said, this can't be possible. I don't want to go to Vaikuntha. So, and he was wrong, but he told me he's wrong. Don't worry about that. So the vast majority of, if you would describe the Prabhupada's disciples, even just young, disciples who had never been to India, maybe even haven't read the whole Bhagavad Gita, that by chanting, hearing, and following Prabhupada, most of you are going to go to Vaikuntha, and this is what it's like. They wouldn't want to go. I can tell you, they would be uninterested. It's unattractive. It means they have been given sufficient impressions from Prabhupada about that ideal, and that they had a corresponding svabhav, that coincided with what he was teaching. That's why they were brought together by the transcendental system, right? So my point is that they're rag bhaktas without even knowing the term raganuga bhakti. And if they practiced, went to Mangalarti, and then they started to wake up, and they wanted to wake up. They went to sleep in bliss, and they woke up in bliss. They go to the Arti, then they need to learn anything more. They just need to keep doing what they're doing, right? So, but anyway, my point is that you can be a rag bhakta also in orientation without this full manifestation of lobha or ruchi. And if we want to say, well, some ruchi's there, well, okay, if they have some enthusiasm, it's not the full measure of that. The full, it's one of the commentators on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu said that eligibility for rag bhakti, the ruchi, is more rare than attaining as a sadhaka and attaining bhava in Vaidhi bhakti. So that's putting a pretty high, definition of lobha or ruchi. So Mahaprabhu's movement is about rag bhakti. It's no big new secret or something. That's what. If you want to go to Goloka Vrindavan, if this is your ideal, your God is Radha and Krishna, and you're on the rag mark.
But what is the cause of such a strong lobha that one can practice Maravan, which is the main link of Raganuga Bhakti?
What's the qualification for then doing seva in the Siddharupa, right? Basically, that's what you're talking about, because we said there's two bodies. There's the sadhaka deya, and then there's the meditative siddhadeha. So what is the qualification for meditating on the siddhadeha? Well, you may ask, what is the qualification for meditation, period? And then, in contrast, what is the qualification for kirtan? So, how many of you know how to do kirtan? Raise your hand. You know how to do kirtan? Right? Have you done it before? Right? It's easy. Okay. Now, how many know how to meditate? Well, you know, I'm not sure. So meditation requires more qualification. Where will the qualification come from? It will come from kirtan. Because what does kirtan do at the in the very minimal? What does Sankirtan do in the very minimal? Cheto darpana marjanam. What does that mean? Oh, it means there are things on the chitta, on your internal organ of awareness, that are clouding your awareness and obscuring your capacity to meditate. They're hurdles, they're getting in the way. You can't meditate because on your chitta you got all these impressions, and you know, you think you've got things to do that are more important. You have to get up. Like I said, the Buddha's path was very simple. He just sat down. Try it. How easy is it to sit down? Just sit down. That's all you have to do. Pick a nice tree, a banyan tree, big tree. Sit down. And don't get up. Oh, well, it's not so easy, right? Because the manovritti, the vrittis in the mind, some scars are driving our movement. So the power of Sankirtan at just the initial stages, which we are working to get some footing in initial stages, is it will cleanse the chitta. Cheto darpana marjanam. Mahaprabhu gives the analogy that the chitta is like a mirror. So the chitta is this internal organ of awareness. Like I said the other day, if you hear a sound, it registers on the chitta. You become aware. There's a sound. Then another internal organ called buddhi, intellect, discriminates and determines it's a sound of a bell, or it's a sound of a conch, it's the sound of a flute. And then another internal organ called the mind, it functions like sankalpa, vikalpa. I like this, I don't like that. So your mind says, I like that sound of the flute. Somebody else's mind says, I don't like that sound. Somebody else says, I like the fifth note. Somebody else says, I like the fourth note. You know, so on, right? So this chitta is like a mirror, and all impressions from the world are forming on that. And Mahaprabhu says this kirtan cleanses those material impressions away, and it puts Krishna in front of the mirror. And as the impressions are cleared away, then Krishna comes on the mirror. Now, when Krishna comes on the mirror, you come on them. Because Krishna is inside of you. You, self-realization, is God realization. What do we mean by that, Lalita? Your identity, you have a relational identity. Your identity as a jiva is not some separate thing. You're a vidinamsa, means you're a distinct part of Krishna that has a serving and loving disposition. It's not that we have a potential to love. We are a lover. We don't have like a passive potential to be a lover if love is injected inside of us. No. If we say that the jiva has a potential, swarup yogata, then it means, well, that thing has to be inside for the potential for it to manifest. You can't, we don't say that a stone has the potential to think, but we say that a tree has a potential, a seed has a potential to manifest a tree. Why? Because there's no thought content in any form inside of a stone. I often say, stones don't think, they're thoughts. That's another thing. But inside of the seed of a banyan tree is a tree in unmanifest form. If we had to put the tree inside the seed, then we can't, for it to come out, we can't say that the seed has the potential to manifest as a tree inherently, right? So if we say we have the potential to love God, then it means that love of God must be in the self, in unmanifest form. You can say that the tree's inside the seed, and you can say the tree's not inside the seed. Because it's not. It depends how you look at it, right? If I give you a seed, it doesn't mean you have a tree, but you have the potential for a tree because the tree is in an unmanifest form inside the seed. And in the right conditions, it will come out. If you want to say that you want to say that love of Krishna is not in the jiva, then I guess it's not yours. Inherently, love of Krishna. Well, whose love of Krishna is it then? Is it your love of Krishna? Or is it some love that wasn't yours, that was put inside? And you can see this starts to make no sense whatsoever, right? This is a misinterpretation of the core Gaudiya texts. We say there's no love of Krishna, but there's a potential if you put bhakti inside. That makes no sense. Right? So, where were we? What was the question?
The question, what is the cause of moksha?
Oh, we were still on that topic. Okay. Well, so I was saying, it wasn't the cause of lobha, it was what about meditation on the Siddha Deha, right? What qualifies one to do that? So I'm saying that the kirtan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it cleanses the heart. When it cleanses the heart, then because you're putting Krishna on the chitta, right? So the other things are running away. The material things don't have any standing, right? And as Krishna comes on the heart, on the chitta, then you come on the chitta in terms of who you are as his servitor. If you're going to realize Krishna, it means you're realizing yourself in relation to Krishna. That's what it means. You understand? But Krishna consciousness is self-conscious, self-awareness at the same time, right? It's not like you're going to meditate on Krishna and you're going to know who Krishna is, but you're not going to know who you are in relation to him. No, knowing who you are in relation to him is what it means for you to know Krishna. So as the heart becomes cleansed by bhakti, then the bhakti that's inherent comes out, that's latent, comes out. As I said, we got a 600-page book about it coming out. So several authors, good points. So if you want to meditate, then Kirtana Prabhave, Smarana Swabhave, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, by the power of Kirtan, which is considerable. What is the power of Kirtan? It does not require the qualifications that meditation requires in order for it to be efficacious. This is so much the case that it said, chanting even in your sleep will be efficacious. You ever try sleep yoga nidra? You got all kinds of yoga nidra. This is the chanting we say. Chanting in your sleep, that is really efficacious. Of course, statements like that are made that, not to say, well, I'll do my job in my sleep tonight. Those statements are made to say, well, if that's true, that just by chanting in your sleep, there will be benefit. What to speak if I pay attention? That's how it's supposed to motivate you, right? But the point is that there's no qualification to participate in kirtan, other than some initial faith in it that gets you to participate, right? I like that. Look, that's cool. Let me try it. Hare Krishna, whatever. So as we said the other day, it reaches down to the unqualified and qualifies them. What does it qualify them for? Qualifies them to do dhyan. By the power of kirtan, you become gradually qualified to do meditation because Chaito Dharpana Marjanam, because the chitta is being cleansed. Then what's happening from external bhakti, internal bhakti starts to manifest. So as you become qualified, like I was saying, use your sadhaka deya, do sankirtan, do archan, and so forth, with the sadhaka deya and siddha deya in time will develop and happen. You wonder, when's it coming? When's it coming? Well, when are those desires of mine leaving, and what effort am I taking to, Krishna Nam is like the broom. Said Krishna comes into your heart like a broom. You got to hold on to the broom. That's all you got to do. It's a magic broom, and it can just light up your heart and put out the lights of all the multinational corporations that have set up shop inside your heart. Say, buy me, do me, be, and so forth. So to put them all out of business, Krishna's come in there as selling brooms. The holy name takes the shape of a broom, but you got to hold on to the broom, right? That's all you have to do. So that means there's a little effort has to be there on your part. You have to gauge it. You have to see. You're interested in the siddha deya. Well, how interested are you in letting go of your desires, and how much possible is that for you? Maybe you have to evaluate that instead of imagining that your siddha deya has come and you're doing raga bhakti with taste. Just see me now, and how now all these others, they don't know about this. I'm doing that, and then really, for all intents and purposes, if you read his Facebook, he's just like everybody else. What's going on in the politics, and what's the latest music I listen to, and so this is people abuse themselves in this way. Sadhakas can abuse themselves. And then some guru encouraged them, yes, you're a Rag Bhakta now. This is like us. You got any more bidis? Oh, yeah. This goes on. It's common, unfortunately. So with anything good, there's going to be misrepresentation of it. But just apply. You don't go looking for misrepresentation so you can point it out everywhere. It's in yourself. Look at yourself. Cleanse your own heart. Right. Do the practice and know what you're looking for in the immediate. I often say you have to know where you want to go, and you have to know where you are. Right. You want to go here, and you are here. And here means what is the next step I should take? Look at the next step. Keep this in mind, but keep your focus on the next step and the next step. What will that be? Well, when you make the steps, you make progress, you make progress. I'm making progress. I read the book and I thought, well, this is happening. Now it's happening to me. Now I can understand. It's a theory, and then when it happens to you, go, oh, that's what it is. That's what this. I understand it more than the letter or the page that it's written on. Someone told me we're going to miss you, Guru Maharaj, even though you're here. We're thinking you're going to be leaving. And it catapulted me into my own experience that after I got initiated in the spring, Prabhupada came again to Los Angeles. He stayed for 3 months in the winter. And so every day I was, whenever there was an opportunity to be with Prabhupada, I was there with Prabhupada. And of course, I had my service and so forth. And that was always our focus. We weren't going to take Prabhupada's time, for ourselves, but if service permitted and gave an opportunity, then, we would be there. In that regard, I remember I was sick. We had a sick room. And so I had flu or something like that. I was in the sick room, and then then Prabhupada's had to pass through the hallway to go to his garden where he would sit sometimes in the early evening or late afternoon. And I happened to be in the hallway or something from the sick room, and Prabhupada saw me, and I thought, oh my God, here Prabhupada's seeing me, and I'm not out on book distribution, selling and serving, oh my God, here I am, And so Prabhupada said, oh, are you coming to the garden? Said, yeah, I'm coming to the garden. So there were opportunities to spend time with him, but then I was told by his assistant that in 3 days Prabhupada's going to Hawaii, and tears came in my eyes. My hair stood on end, and that Prabhupada was here, but I was feeling separation, and I could understand. Oh, that's what love and separation means. I mean, I can't put it in words, but I give you some physical characteristics of understanding it. It was a huge impression upon me, and it was like burning the thought he wouldn't be here, but I was in ecstasy at the same time. So, point is only that I could always tell I'm making progress because it talks about this in the book, and now I'm experiencing it. So you have a map. You have a map. Follow the map, right? You wonder where you are. Look at the map, for God's sake, Learn how to navigate the course a little bit. You have to ask the captain every now and then, okay, but so it's important. So therefore, you have to meditate. Well, there's some further qualification that's required to do it effectively, and that's we find that in the Gita with regard to the Gyan Marg, Karma Marg. Where does the Gita take us from the Karma Marg, which is collecting material impressions, acquiring, Pravritti Marg, acquiring and thinking the lack that I feel in myself will be compensated for by adding something to myself. I'll add a car and a house and a husband and whatever. And then the scriptures tell us how to take in that way with a license, right? How do you take with a license? You say, please. Oh, Krishna, please. And then after it comes, you say, thank you. That's the karma mark. And the please takes the form of some kind of sacrifice to get a good son. That's the please. Donation to the priest and so forth. Make some kalpa. And when the son comes, you take him before Krishna. Here he is. Thank you. Right? So this is gratitude. This is varnashram. Beginning of love. Right? Beginning. What was the point? Karma. Yeah. This is karma. Okay, karma. And so the karma marg in the Gita, we're taught to yogize the karma, if you will, how to turn karma and the material trajectory that's taking us on a course of exploitation, taking from the world. We're taking from the world, and we're going deeper into debt. We're going deeper into debt. It looks on the outside that I'm making progress, but I'm actually going deeper into debt. So, well, this doesn't make a lot of sense when you figure that out. But my trajectory is like, how am I going to, turn that around and stop taking? I've been doing this forever. And now I got a human life, and in this particular human life, I got some sadhu sangha, and it's pointed out to me that, hey, actually, you're in debt. You're not getting anywhere. You owe more than you've ever owed before. And so you think, oh my God, what to do? So but you have this momentum, right? So the Gita says, okay, keep the momentum, but now start to become detached from the fruits of your work. You do, of course, this is a classic varnashram kind of environment we're talking about. You have prescribed duties, karma, in that sense that actions that you should perform and so forth. So perform them because the scripture says to do them, but the fruits, don't be attached. If you get a good result or a bad result, you know, so this factoring in this detachment turns it from yoga to nishkam, from karma to nishkam karma. You've not stopped your trajectory artificially, but you've taken out of it that which the trajectory otherwise would have caused you to incur greater karmic debt. So you're moving from karma towards jnana, right? You're taking the real impetus for karma, which is the result. You're shedding light on that. It's not what you think. That's not what you think. So you become attached from this. So this results in jnana. Right? Then what does Krishna say in the Gita then? After karma yoga comes jnana yoga. Third chapter is karma yoga. Fourth chapter is jnana yoga. Fifth chapter is like a little more of the same. And the sixth chapter is what? Meditation. Meditation. Krishna doesn't tell Arjuna, put down your bow, meditate. No, right? So within the context of bhakti now, but now you have sadhu sangha, so you have faith in bhakti. Okay, so do bhakti. So what should you look for? You should look for that the results that would have come from nishkam karma, from gyan, they're going to come inside of you. As they come, then your adhikar for bhakti develops further. It's not going to be a different result, but the result will be better, maybe more expedient that you will arrive at, and the trajectory resulting from bhakti will not only stop the trajectory from taking, it will catapult you in the direction of giving. Gyan means not taking, karma means to take, gyan means not to take, bhakti means to give, which includes not taking. So anyway, so even the Gita makes it clear, meditation is not, day one, you're going to sit down and meditate on and activate your siddhadeha. You have to activate it through external bhakti, through we used to say, we want, shravanam, kirtanam, scrubbanam, mapanam. Also has to be there. Do a little scrubbanam and mapanam, and then maybe you could sit down and do some shravanam, kirtanam. Practical service. There's an emphasis in ISKCON, Gaudiya Math, for good reason. Okay. What else? Yes.
Would it be correct to say that Aropa Siddha Bhakti is Nishkam Karma Yoga within the context of Uttama Bhakti school? Would that be a correct comparison?
Aropa Siddha Bhakti is like Karma Mishra Bhakti.
Karma Mishra.
Yeah. Aropa Siddha Bhakti is, it says, Gita says, what? Yat karoshi rasnasi, yat johoshi dirasi, yat tapasyasi kuntaya, tat karushva mararpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you think, whatever you offer, give away, anything, whatever it is, do it for me. Take a bath for me. That's what he said. Take a shower for me. These are not inherently activities of bhakti, but you can assign them as bhakti. That was what rope means. Right? Everybody has to do a little rope siddha bhakti. But as a path, it's a little different than similar. Yes, go Chandra.
Yeah. So I have a feedback from you. Said even just now that karma is taking, jnana is rejecting. and bhakti is giving. In Practitioner, we have 6 directional giving and receiving as well. I know it's not receiving as taking by force, it's just taking what someone is giving you. No, but it's also art of taking, because this is also art. It's
Yes, but earlier we had a question from Krishna Karnam. He asked that it's mentioned in the Bhagavatam that eligibility for bhakti involves not being too attached or too detached, which means within bhakti there's scope for letting go and for taking. So we'll accept what's favorable for Krishna, we'll reject what's unfavorable. But that's bhakti. That acceptance is not karma. You understand? That's another thing. When we say karma, it means I'm taking from the world. It's all based on my material identity, and I'm fostering my material identity. That's the karma marg, right? So when we take something in the context of bhakti and we accept something, and then I accept it only for the purpose of using it in Krishna service. Like say I have a computer I write on. I only use it for Krishna service. I accepted that, but it's not karma. It's not implicating me. It's not. That's bhakti. You understand? So I'll accept things favorable for Krishna service. I'll reject things unfavorable. So that acceptance, that taking, it's not the taking that we're talking about in karma. That's giving. That's part of the dynamic of giving.
you have to take it.
Well, let me give you another example. The gopis are not interested in bliss. They're only interested in serving Krishna. But because it pleases Krishna for them to be blissful, they accept it. They take it. It's mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is their standard. They have no concern for bliss, but Krishna wants them to be blissful, so they accept I'll be blissful. It's not the karma.
But Shikshashtakam says that it's nectar that we are not to.
Yes, but we want to have nectar. Yes, we do want. That's of course there's different ways to talk about it. The point is that to put it in simple English, giving is the getting. Maybe that's a little Zen. Giving is the getting. So there is getting, but it's in the giving. The problem with karma is there's no getting. There's only an appearance of getting. And neither is it about giving. It's about taking. I'm taking, and I think I'm getting something, but it's here today and it's gone tomorrow. That's material life, right? But in bhakti, in the full sense, there's only giving. Like, okay, you don't want to have any material desires, right? Therefore, I don't want to have any desires, so I don't want to desire to go to Krishna Loka, but if he takes me there, I'll go. No, you don't think like that. What are those people in Krishna Loka? Who is Subal? What is Lalita, Vishaka? What do they represent? They are the embodiment of complete and absolute selfless giving. That's what I want. You see, I want that. Selfless giving. Bliss is a product of that, a byproduct of that. That happens to be part of it. But, you understand?
It's not the target.
Yeah, it's not taking, it's giving. It's the getting that is inherent in actual giving. All right. Well, it's been very nice to sit with you here on this last day of our festival and through the course of the week. It's been very good to me and keeping me busy with questions and opportunity to serve. So I look forward to meeting you again soon. Until then, until we meet again. Shri Sri Gauratananda ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Gaur Premanande. Vanchakopatulubhyascha Kapasindubheva Patitanam Pavanivashtam Anantapuri Vaishnavindra ki jai. Oh, Premanande.